Welcome students. Today we're going to be working on Objective 7.2 and the topic is scientific notation. We are going to be able to write numbers in scientific and standard notation, and we want to be able to compare and order numbers using scientific notation. So scientific notation is used, as you can probably guess, in many science applications. For example, the distance of the planets, the distance of the sun, the size of a cell. We have very large numbers and very small numbers, and so we are going to define scientific notation as a number written as a product in the form a times 10 to the nth power. And there's two rules. N, the power has to be an integer. So it can be positive or it can be negative, but it can't be a decimal or fraction. And then the number a here has to be between 1 and 10. So using interval notation, we're going to say a is between 1 and 10. So in example 1, we just want to look at our numbers and see if we're following those two rules. Is a between 1 and 10, and is our power an integer? So in letter A, we see 0.23 is not between 1 and 10. So we would say no, it is not correct scientific notation because A is not between 1 and 10. Letter B, I've got 2.3, that's fine, that's between 1 and 10, and times 10 to the 7th, that is an integer, so that works. And then 9.3 times 100 to the 3rd is not in scientific notation because this part right here must be a 10, not a 100. For example 2, I want to take these large and small numbers and I want to rewrite them in scientific notation. So I am simply going to say, where's my decimal point now? And here it's at the end of the number. And I want to move it until I end up with a number between 1 and 10. So I'm moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 places. So if I stop between the 1 and the 5, I've got 1.5709, and I don't need to write these extra zeros, times 10, and then I moved it 8 places. So I'm going to use a positive 8, and that reminds me when it's time to, if I need to expand that number back again, I'm going to move it to the right, and it's going to become a very large number, just like 10 to the 8th. Then with 0.061, I'm going to take my decimal point where it is, and I'm going to move it 2 places until I'm between the 6 and the 1. Now I have a number between 1 and 10. 6.1 times 10. I moved it 2 places, but to remind myself that when I'm finished, my number is going to be a very small decimal, I'm going to have a negative exponent. So some people have you memorize, here I moved it to the left, so I used a positive exponent. Here I had to move it to the right, so I use a negative exponent. And then when I'm undoing it, when I have a negative, I would move it back to the left, and here I would move it back to the right. So for your try-it problems, I'd like you to take a look at these 4 numbers and attempt to change them into scientific notation. Pause the video and practice putting your numbers in scientific notation. And now it's time to check the answers to your try-it problems. For letter A, I've got 6.78 times 10 to the 5th, so I had to move my decimal to the left 5 places. For B, I've got 3.02 times 10 to the negative 5th. That means I had to move it to the right 5 places. For C, 5.104 times 10 to the 7th, I had to move it to the left 7 places. And for D, I had to go to the right 7 places, so I'm going to go with 7 times 10 to the negative 7th. Now for example 3, we want to go the other way. We want to be able to write a number in standard notation if it's already in scientific. So I'm undoing the same type of problems that I did up above. So here I see a positive exponent, so I want to take my 2.96 and I want to make it into a bigger number. 10 to the third is a big number, it's 1,000. So I'm going to move 3 places to the right, and I'm going to fill in with a 0 if there's an empty space. So I get 2,960. Here with 1.93 times 10 to the negative 5th, I can see negative 5th is a teeny tiny number, and I want to move to the left 5 places. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and fill in with zeros. So you're going to practice doing that in your try it problems. And pause the video and we'll be right back to check your answers. So you can check your answers for changing a number in scientific notation into standard notation. The first one we have 52,300,000. For letter B, I've got a decimal point with 4 zeros and a 4-6. So let's see, that's the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths place. So that number is 46 millionths. Notice we don't count this 0 that's right here. That's just holding the place. And in letter C, I had to move 4 places to the right, to the left rather. So this is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000, 100,000ths. Also the millionths place, so 209 millionths is my answer. And for the last one, I had to go 12 places to the right, so these are my 100,000ths, million, billion, trillions. 3,800,000,000,000 is my number in letter D. So you can take a moment to summarize what you learned today. Hopefully by the end of this lesson, I can write numbers in scientific notation, and also if a number is already in scientific notation, I can go back the other way to what's called standard notation. And that's all for this lesson. Thanks for listening.